What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up another brand new work week here. DK Show on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Video stream also up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Got a Roku, got a smart TV, got the YouTube app up in there. You can bring it up on there as well. Sports Talk app and such. But hopefully, all again had a fantastic weekend. And well, it's now May. Sure doesn't kind of fully seem like it at this point, but nonetheless, we're hopefully going to get there to some nicer temps and get to a little bit more consistency out in the golf course and such, right? Opening fishing already coming up this weekend too. Holy moly! What do we got on the game plan here for this morning? Well, the NFL draft is in the books. Packers ended up selecting a total of 13 players, 7 on offense, 5 on defense, 1 special teams, which was a kicker. So, what do you think? I don't want to grade it. Okay. Not going to grade it because we don't know how these players are going to perform and such, but based off of potential. Okay. I think that's the key phrase, key word in this whole thing. Based off of potential, how do you like it? How do you like the how Goody filled out some of the roster, maybe some of the holes and such? Were there any disappointments from you that maybe they didn't address? I guess maybe offensive line or maybe safety earlier in the draft. Anything stand out to you from the draft? Let me know. If you haven't commented on our Facebook post from yesterday, facebook.com/Kasper Sports, or on Twitter at DANKASPER. Start hitting me up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. And maybe let's have a little fun with this. Which of the 13 picks for the green and gold was your favorite? You have a favorite? Do you like, oh, yeah, I really like that one. Solid move. Good move. I'll just, we'll get to it in depth here coming up here in just a little bit on the leadoff, but I like the class. All right. I like the class based off potential. I thought there were some good value picks later on in the draft as well. We'll hit those up coming up here, but I overall I liked the draft class that Goody put together here for the Packers. So, but again, we'll hit that up coming up here in just a little bit. But if you want to give me your analysis, your thoughts if you haven't already done so, let me know with some of those texts coming up on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line. So we'll hit that up. Brewers picking up a series win against the Angels. They were shut out yesterday, 3-0. But picked up a 7-5 victory on Saturday and then picked up a 2-1 victory on Friday. So the Brew Crew finishing up the month of April, 18-10, 1.5 back from the Pirates within their own division right now. But when you look at it all across the National League, excuse me, you've got the Brewers' third best record in the National League. They've gone through some injuries. Aaron Ashby, right? Tyrone Taylor were in spring training. Luis Urias got hurt opening day. Brandon Woodruff during the first homestead. Garrett Mitchell's probably done for the season. So even with these injuries and some minor ones here and there, the Brewers sitting at 18-10 with the first month of the season already in the books. Guys, I mean, opening day was the 30th. So now we can fully say March 30th. So now we can say that 1 month completed. So this is one we can maybe grade a little bit or give analysis on. Your overall thoughts from the first month of the Brewer season. What has stood out to you the most? What has impressed you the most? What has disappointed you the most? What is, kind of all the above for the first month of this baseball season, specifically here for the Brew Crew. Player that maybe has surprised you the most or disappointed you the most? Let's kind of look at this whole thing. One little nugget here that I think at least kind of caught me off surprise. You know the pitcher that's got the most strikeouts in the game for the Brewers this year? It's Colin Ray. He did yesterday. 9 strikeouts. And this is with, Corbin Burns on the ball club, Freddie Peralta. Obviously, we saw a little bit of Brandon Woodruff, but nobody is at the double-digit mark, it looks like so far. Brewers are expected to get Tyrone Taylor and Adrian Hauser back on the active roster at some point this week. Brew Crew off today. And then before they start a road trip that will include stops against the Colorado Rockies for 3 games, and then the San Francisco Giants on at the back end of this week. So that Friday game is going to be a late one, but other than that, not too shabby. Before the Brew Crew return home a week from today to begin a 3-game series against the Dodgers of Los Angeles. So, but assess the month of April, Brewers fans. How would you assess or grade the month of April for the Brewers? If you're into power rankings and such, go to MLB.com. Yesterday they had up their Brewers were at number 4. Number 1 was the Rays. Number 2 is the Braves. Number 3 is the Blue Jays. Brewers coming in at number 4. Pirates did crack the top 10 at number 7. So, or if you're a Twins fan, if you're a Twins fan listening and you want to do the same thing for the month of April for your Twins, I'm up for it. Okay, assess, grade the overall team performance, players surprising, disappointing, that sort of thing. So we'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on here. The NBA playoffs continuing. Stanley Cup playoffs got the upset with the Bruins. Bruins out, but the Kraken get their first playoff series win, ousting the Avs. How about that? Way to go, Kraken. 2-1. Yeah. But the Boston Bruins, again, you see it seems like a tradition. It's almost maybe a curse when it comes to the NHL. Best regular season record, and then when it gets to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's like you're cursed because you're not really going to go far, it seems like, or do anything when it comes to the postseason. But the Florida Panthers ending this record-breaking season for the Boston Bruins yesterday in overtime, 4-3. So another team with the best record in their respective sport. Boston finishing up 65-12-5, but didn't even advance through the postseason. Couldn't get it done. So looking at this list, I was looking at it last night, kind of taking a look, at the teams in the regular season with the best win or with the most wins, best record wise. Would you say Boston, the Bruins here, maybe the most disappointing if we were to rank them? Because at least so the Patriots, right? Undefeated in the regular season, at least they got to the Super Bowl. They lost in the Super Bowl. You had the Mariners. Was it the 2001 Mariners, 116 wins? Lost in the ALS, American League Championship Series, ALCS, excuse me. You had the Cubbies were up there too. They lost in the World Series. It was the 1906 Cubbies. Obviously, Golden State Warriors 73-9, losing in the NBA Finals to LeBron and the Cavs. Bruins didn't even win a playoff series, though, for crying out loud. Would you say that's probably the most disappointing, or of all the teams that have had the best records in a regular season, this one was the most disappointing postseason run here? They didn't even get one done. Obviously, you could throw the 15-1 Packers in from 2011, 2012, losing in their first playoff game against what would be the Super Bowl champion New York Giants, but still 15-1 and not even winning a playoff series there. Yuck. But the Stanley Cup playoffs continues, and the Kraken will be moving on there too. NBA playoffs yesterday, you saw Steph Curry dropping 50 in a Game 7 win against the Kings to move on. So Golden State's moving on. Now, the NBA's got to be loving their upcoming matchup here. We got the Warriors and the Lakers meeting up against each other in the postseason. So I'm sure they're just loving this one. We got Miami picking up the win against New York yesterday, too. So tonight we've got Philly and Boston. Game 1, Phoenix, Denver. Denver leads that series 1-0. That's also on tap here for tonight. So NBA playoffs continuing even without the Milwaukee Bucks. Not kind of, it is sad news, but sad news. It was I don't know if you want to call it leaked or reported or something out there, but Mike Budenholzer, he had a brother that passed away. I think was it before Game 4? They said of the postseason of their Game 4 matchup game with the Miami Heat and such. But Budenholzer elected to keep that private. But I think it was Darvin Ham, the Lakers head coach, that kind of inadvertently leaked it out in a presser. But it's just sad news surrounding that. I can't even imagine trying to. It passed away in a car accident too. So, but obviously, Coach Budenholzer was coaching with a heavy heart. In the last couple games of the series there. So, what else we got in the docket? I believe we'll be catching up with JC Nisi, Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire. We'll catch up on some of the local stuff. Chip with Steel, losing on Friday night, so their postseason run and their season ending on Friday nights. We had the Blue Golds track and field team hosting their first home meet. If you're driving on Claremont on Friday, you probably saw it up on Upper Campus at Simpson Field there. Pretty cool site there. But the first home meet for the track and field team since 2008. Been a while. And they've won a few national championships between then, too. So, but we'll catch up on some of the local stuff with him. We got a Studs and Duds coming up for your Monday morning here, too. Monday morning quarterback, and we'll do a little motivational Monday as well. So let's kick off with our Monday morning quarterback, though. Okay, we're gonna kick it off with our Monday morning quarterbacking. Gonna be looking back at this draft class for the green and gold. Was there a player, or maybe you got a couple players that were your favorite picks from Goody, either on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? What stood out to you about this draft class? I don't want to grade it essentially because we don't know how these players are going to pan out. But if we were to look at it based off the potential of these players, maybe filling in the needs of the roster surrounding Jordan Love with some talent and such. Overall, how do you view this class, these rookies that Goody and the Packers drafted over the past couple days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? What stood out to you the most? Do you have any favorite picks? Do you wish they would have addressed a certain position or a certain area maybe a little bit more than what they did in the draft? Give me your thoughts. Hit me up with some texts, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, or find me on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. So we'll get things rolling here this morning. Coming up on the leadoff, recapping the 13 players, a total of 13 players Packers selected over the draft. We'll dissect each one of them. All right, that's kind of graphic. Look at them. We've got some Hops for Hockey Beer Fest tickets to be given away here as well. Just head to our website, Sports Talk 1051. That's Saturday, May 6th, 4 to 7 p.m., Hobbs Ice Arena. Save yourself about 35 bucks here. Ticket includes beer sampling, complimentary food, and a commemorative glass. This is a 21 and older event. So if you want your chance to win some of those tickets, again, just head to our website at sportstalk1051.com and click on that subscribe and win tab. So let's get things going here this morning on the leadoff. Kind of doing a little, well, we're combining it here. Or we usually do a Monday morning quarterback, right? So we're doing that with this draft class. Now that the draft is in the books, we can take a look at what Goody and the Packers selected to do, their selections, and kind of take a look at them. Obviously, we don't know how their careers are going to pan out. I don't want to predict that or anything. I don't want to get too far in the weeds there. But based off of potential, based off just the potential, based off of maybe filling in some needs and all that. What were your thoughts on this draft class? Now, I know for some people, maybe they were a little surprised that Goody didn't trade up. In fact, he traded back a couple times and garnered some more picks later on. To which I was seeing, at least on the social, some people question why he didn't move up or make a trade. I think though, if you think about it here a little bit, Packers aren't going to have a whole lot of salary cap space since they're eating up Rodgers' contract this year. So one way to fill out your roster is probably a little cheaper help with more rookies and some undrafted players. I mean, that's one way to potentially look at it because again, your draft class is probably going to be what, $7-8 million, and that's just going to leave you with a few here to play. Obviously, you could create a little bit more with the Rashawn Gary contract and such, but nonetheless, it didn't really. When you think about it, I don't think it should be a big surprise that Goody didn't necessarily trade up and use some of that extra draft capital to trade up, and in fact, got more picks. Entered this draft with what, 11, ended up getting a couple more there. So, you know, I know there were some people kind of hoping and wishing that maybe he would have moved up in the second round or maybe even up in the third round and such. But nonetheless, coming away with a couple more extra picks, I think in a salary cap stretch makes some sense though too. So, but let's take a look at some of these players. Obviously, we talked about Lucas Van Ness on Friday, right? When we talked about defensive end, edge rusher, lineman, whatever designation you want to give him. The Packers have already put him out there as a linebacker and such on their website. But we talked about Lucas here for the most part on Friday when we were in here. So kind of want to focus on the other players here before we kind of look at the class overall. So Packers at number 42 got their tight end, Luke Musgrave from Oregon State. Now, if you go back to Friday, we was playing a little game with Brandon where we had a few tight ends up there. I took away their names, but I gave you the scouting reports out there. What some of the scouts and analysts out there put positives and negatives for all those tight ends, and had everybody pick your prospect. It was either 1, 2, 3, or 4. It was like match game or the whatever that dating game sort of thing is. And it was all across the board. And there were a few people who had picked Luke Musgrave. They didn't know they were picking Luke Musgrave, but they did. So you got Luke Musgrave coming in as your tight end. And I know, the Packers bypassed Washington. A lot of teams bypassed Darnell Washington. Apparently, there was a report out there that, there was some medical concerns surrounding his knees. That was kind of, I guess, sparked up around the combine and such. So that's why you saw it wasn't just the Packers that bypassed him in the first, or in the second round and such. Pretty much everybody else until he was it the Steelers picked him up in the third round, I believe. So, but I'm assuming that's the Packers were probably one team too that had concerns with his knees as medicals. But you could say the same thing for people maybe not sold on the Luke Musgrave pick. No doubt he's an athletic freak, 6'6", 253 pounds. But the biggest concern with him heading into this draft was his health. He was banged up quite a bit last year. I was reading a little bit. This is one thing from a scout says well-rounded athlete, competed in 3 sports, was good at all through growing up. Reminds me of when Mike Gesicki came out and you could see his indoor volleyball talent in some of his football play. Um, but perhaps one of the better athletic tight ends in this draft. But the biggest concern is going to be the health. Packers was it one of their assistant directors of scouting was asked about it, and after the picks were made because you kind of follow on socials. A lot of the scouts or directors of college scouting will come out after some of the picks and take questions from the media. But the Packers at this point not concerned about any lingering or long term effects with Luke Musgrave's injuries and such. But he's definitely a tight end, versatile tight end. So if he can stay healthy, I like this pick. I was a Luke Musgrave fan. I was a Luke Musgrave fan. You know, if he does stay healthy, he's probably in that conversation with Dalton Kincaid and such as maybe being the first or one of the first tight ends selected. Probably maybe a back end first round, earlier second round. Even already was an early second round pick, but nonetheless, I liked the pick. But obviously, there is going to be a spotlight on whether he can stay healthy or not. And then the Packers followed it up with a wide receiver, Jaden Reed from Michigan State. Now you look at him; he's got the speed. He's also got some special teams experience, return in the returning game, punt returns and such. He's shown his ability to play inside, outside. He is a little bit smaller, just at that 5'11", about a buck 85, 190. Maybe not the biggest wide receiver out there, but got good ball skills. He can track the deep throw, elusive after the catch. If you're into fantasy football, there's already, fantasy football people out there that came out with their rankings, rookie rankings, and Reed was already listed in the top 10. Already listed as a top 10 potential rookie fantasy football player this year. And then after that, you know, Jordan Love gets tight end and Luke gets a wide receiver and Reed. Packers followed up by double dipping with another tight end, Tucker Kraft, South Dakota State. I loved the fact that Green Bay double dipped in tight ends. I loved it. I know for some, probably they're like, "Oh, let's just got one," and all that, but I absolutely love the fact that they double dipped. They needed some serious help in the tight end department. Let's not kid ourselves. Tyler Davis, Josiah DeGuara, more of that H-back, fullback type of role. Packers go and double dip and get another big athletic tight end, Tucker Kraft. 6'5", about 255, another combination tight end. So you're giving Jordan Love 2 big tight ends to grow and work with. One scout said, "I like him. I think he's tough and plays like a big tight end in space. He's not a finesse receiver." So I'm excited to see Kraft and Luke Musgrove grow together and hopefully be fixtures within this offense for years to come. I'm sure Packers fans are maybe thinking of the mid-90s. You got Mike Kamara and Keith Jackson, 2 tight ends, or maybe you're thinking about the Patriots days of Rob Gronkowski and when Aaron Hernandez was playing football, maybe a little bit of that. But I loved that Goody went and doubled down. Part of me was kind of half jokingly, but the other part was like, well, I don't want to always bring him up whenever we talk green and gold. But you know, when he wasn't watching a Rangers game or being in attendance for the Knicks Heat game if he was kind of looking at the draft and was like, Aaron Rodgers, what the heck? They went and drafted two tight ends and a wide receiver all within first 3 rounds. Where was that when I was around? The heck was that? But I loved it. I loved day two for the Packers. Again, this is all based off potential. We don't know how they're going to pan out. We don't know if Luke's going to be able to stay healthy and such. But based off potential, I flipping loved it that they spent day two surrounding their young quarterback with young talent. Loved it. And then day three, final day, kicks off. What do the Packers do? They go out and get a defensive lineman, Colby Wooden from Auburn. Colby cheese right there. You see it? It's already made. Already made enough. Get him a cheesehead, Colby cheese. Boom. We got it done. Now, he's a little bit of a smaller defensive lineman. You're looking at it 6'4", 273. You see a lot of edge rushers, a 3'4", kind of with those numbers and such. But the Packers are already kind of coming out and saying that, he's going to be a defensive lineman. What can be a guy with a little versatility that that he can bring with this group. But if you like guys who love football, you're going to love this guy. This was one thing that a scout said. He's a coach's dream. Nobody is going to outwork him, and football means a lot to him. Competitive, versatile. So to kick off the fourth round, bringing him in, I liked it. And, if you're looking at the combine and combine scores, they actually did list him as a linebacker. They actually did list him as a linebacker on here, where next gen stats for Colby, production score, he was ranked number 1. Total score, he was ranked second. Athleticism score ranked 5th. So maybe we're going to see some versatility with him where his hands in the dirt. Maybe he's standing up. Maybe he's a guy that, again, we were kind of talking about with Lucas on Friday. You got Rashawn, you got Preston, you got Lucas, or maybe Colby's a guy that you can stand up over the center and blitz it up the middle here too. But are you catching kind of a theme here so far with a lot of these picks? Athleticism. If you're looking at they got the RAS scores out there. Kind of follow along on maybe on the socials, on Twitter or Facebook, you know what the RAS scores are. It's the athleticism scores. These guys are scoring pretty darn high. But you got guys so far with these picks, versatility athletes. Lucas, Luke, Tucker, Reed, and now Colby. Guys that can do a couple different things, a few different things, whether it's on offense, defense, or even special teams. When you're looking at, Reed. Versatile athletes. Catching a theme so far with some of these picks. And then round 5, Packers go. This was the only player I got right in my Packers mock draft a little bit earlier there, but nonetheless, Sean Clifford, Penn State quarterback, coming in here. It was interesting reading some of the analysis on him after the Packers made that pick. But obviously, one common theme when it comes to Clifford is his intelligence, his smarts. And I thought there was an interesting line. I wish I could remember who it was. I wish I would have saved it, but it was an interesting line that said, Clifford might be the perfect, or might have been born to be a backup quarterback in the NFL, just because of his intelligence, his smarts. Is he going to be a starter in this league? Who knows? Right now, you were a guessing person or you were a betting person? Probably not. But the common theme when you look around and you read everything about Sean Clifford from Penn State, other than the fact that he held off Will Levis, that everybody likes to run with now, is his intelligence. So adding him to that quarterback room, yes, he's going to be a rookie, but adding in that intelligence factor with Jordan Love and maybe another quarterback coming in here. I mean, we all knew Green Bay was gonna get a quarterback at some point, right? We all knew that they were gonna draft for some depth, right? It was gonna happen. So, and then after that, Packers again going wide receiver, Dontavian Wicks from Virginia. A little bit of a bigger receiver, 6'1", 206. You're looking at some of his numbers, not the fastest in the 40, a 4.62 in the 40-yard dash, but his strengths is his route running, his ability to make those sharp cuts in and out of his routes. He actually does. I was reading a little bit last night. Got some, even though he's got a 4.62 40, he's got some elusiveness after the catch. He's a big yak guy, it looks like. Did have a little issue catching the football, had some drops. According to Pro Football Focus, last year he dropped 14 passes. Or excuse me, over the last 2 seasons, he's dropped 14 passes according to Pro Football Focus. But again, at this point, good values pick. I thought it was a solid value pick, and he was a pick too that kind of following along. A lot of people were kind of predicting maybe a potential late round pick for the green and gold for the Packers. And then after that, Packers go back, which I thought was a tremendous value pick in the sixth round. Carl Brooks, Bowling Green. Now, this is an interesting one here too, because if you look at combine and such, they listed him as a linebacker. But again, it sounds like the Packers are going to have him on the defensive front. But this is a guy who's 6'3", little over 300 pounds. He is, I mean, he's a guy that's probably going to be at that 3-4 defensive end in a 3-4 odd front. And you just kind of look at his numbers throughout his college career, tackles for a loss, getting after the quarterback, pressures. And he's a six-round pick, and it's like, that's darn good stuff. Two-time captain. Again, another versatile type of player that the Packers, that Joe Barry can put within his defense. He led the team in sacks in 4 of his 5 years. His freshman year, 32 tackles, 4.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks in 12 games and 8 starts. Sophomore season, 33 tackles, 8.5 for loss with 4.5 sacks. In 2020, it was that shortened season because of COVID. 10 tackles, 2.5 for loss with 2 sacks. And then in 2021, 42 tackles, 12.5 for loss, 7.5 sacks. And this past season, 50 tackles, 18 of them for loss. It was top 10 nationally and 10 sacks, 4 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. I love this pick at in the sixth round. I thought this was a tremendous value pick. And then Packers went and got a kicker in the sixth round. Anders Carlson, Daniel Carlson's brother, Auburn. The only thing now, this probably I would, and I know Goody afterwards in his, wrap up presser and such, necessarily didn't close the door on Mason Crosby returning, but I think selecting a kicker here, I think it kind of does, to be honest with you. I think it does. But this is the thing that does actually concern me a little bit about Anders Carlson. Now, obviously, he's kicked in some big time games, right? Auburn, the Iron Bowl, and such. But he's got a career make rate of just 71.8% of 50 yards plus. He's just made 5 of 17 from 50 yards. And since 2021, he's 0 for 4. Inconsistent on mid-range kicks. And he's got a bring a little bit too, he's got a little bit of a slow operation time that leads to blocked kicks. So, those are the things that concern me here a little bit about Anders Carlson. He has the pedigree, his brother's an NFL kicker and such. He's played in some big time moments, kicked in some big time games, but the inconsistency factor does concern me here a little bit. He does concern me a little bit. But I really think that also signifies the end of Mason Crosby's tenure, unless I don't know, unless they go into this thing and, we'll see what it looks like in end of July and into preseason and such. Mason's still available, and there's just some inconsistency and there's some struggling. Maybe they can bring him back if he's available at that point, but right now, I don't see Mason coming back at this point. I just don't see it. Which is a little bit of a change in, what Goody said was it before the combine? Kind of hinted that, yeah, Mason was probably gonna be back and such, but I don't know. Okay, so then the Packers go into the 7th round where they had 1, 2, 3, 4 picks in the 7th round, and, they kicked it off by bringing in a corner, Carrington Valentine from Kentucky. Again, common theme here has been athletes, and we go back to that RAS score. And his comps on there were Marshawn Lattimore and Marlon Humphrey. Now, that's not to say that he's gonna turn out to be that type of player, but again, you got a guy, a corner who's 6 foot, about a buck 95, anywhere between 190 to 195. Physical traits, he's a physical corner, capable of handling press coverage, needs a little bit more experience playing that cornerback position, but he's physical, playing that press. Not that great as a run defender, but for a 7th round pick, just a little bit of a depth pick there for that cornerback position. Then you got Lou Nichols III, Central Michigan running back. And when you hear about his background and the coaching background he's had, this just makes Central Michigan. His position coach, was also Aaron Jones's position coach in college when they were at UTEP. Makes sense now, doesn't it? 5'10", 220 pounds. I mean, if you wanna yeah, he's a guy that can catch routes out of the backfield, downhill, change of direction, jump cuts. Just reminds you a lot of Aaron Jones, and the fact that, same position coach in college, now he's going to a team that Aaron Jones is on, a guy who's incredibly familiar with Aaron Jones's game. It makes sense. It makes sense. Kind of a He just kind of screams maybe of a 3rd down back, a traditional old school 3rd down back. Can catch some passes out of the backfield, run the football between the tackles. So the Lou Nichols pick just screams like a typical perfect Packers pick. And perhaps one of my favorite picks in this draft for the Packers is a 7th round pick. Maybe for a lot of people, they finally addressed this position, but it came in the 7th, was Anthony Johnson Jr., the safety from Iowa State. The fact that he was still available at this spot in the 7th round is a little surprising. I thought he'd go a couple rounds earlier. Now I know the safety class was weak, air quotes, "weak" for a lot of the analysts, for a lot of the scouts out there, but this is a safety. He's a cornerback turned safety. He's got the physicality. He brings physicality that maybe you don't see a lot from some corners, but the fact that, he's a corner turned safety, you have to have that physicality. He brings that physicality. He's a guy that you can play near the line of scrimmage or use him as a slot corner, team captain, 54 career starts under his belt. I love the fact that he's willing in the in stopping the run, goes downhill to attack that runner in the running game. Obviously, the coverage experience he has from his cornerback days. Now he's still learning a little bit from the safety position, or still learning that safety role, but 6 foot, 200, 205 pounds, 4'5", 440, bringing in a safety that's got that coverage experience, a guy that maybe you can throw in there to help with covering that slot receiver, maybe even a little bit of covering, the tight ends, helping out covering the tight ends. I loved this pick as a 7th round pick. I loved it, and I was surprised he was still there in the 7th round. Now, is he gonna be a starter this year? I don't know, probably not. Brian Gutekunst said after the draft was over with that they have been in constant communication with Adrian Amos to potentially maybe come back here, and you look at it, you look at the depth, they've got players, they've got younger guys at safety, but not a ton of experience outside of Darnell Savage, and you got Rudy Ford and such, but could potentially see Adrian Amos coming back. But for a 7th round pick, I love that one. That might have been one of my favorite ones in this entire draft. And then the final pick, another wide receiver for Jordan Love. Or as Leroy Butler was saying, some of those picks got some more milk. Get some more milk for Jordan Love. Bigger receiver, 6'2", a little over 200 pounds. Not a ton of experience playing wide receiver, but he possesses that ideal size, great catch radius. He's really good at jump balls and fade routes. Above average on those 50-50 balls. But again, 7th round pick, ath athletic trait, versatility. It just seems to have been the common theme throughout this draft for Goody and the Packers. Bringing in guys that are raw. Obviously, all these guys are gonna be raw rookies. But there's just a lot to like based off the potential for a lot of these players. For a lot of these players. It's going to be, you know, let's face it, this year, a lot of young guys are gonna have to step up, and they're gonna get a lot of experience this year. It might be a lot of ups and downs this year for some of these players and for this Packers team because of, these guys getting acclimated to the NFL game, learning the system, Jordan Love learning, these wideouts and these tight ends. But in the next couple of years, I'm pumped to see these guys grow together. I'm pumped to see these tight ends and these wide receivers growing with Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs and Jordan Love. I'm really excited to see that. And defensively, we said it on Friday, and with a couple of these players that were drafted again, but I'll revisit what we said on Friday. No more excuses on a defensive end. Joe Barry, you got some players. Obviously, we know you got a ton of first round picks, first rounders on that defense front. But now You've also added a couple of versatile players that you could either have hands in the dirt, lining up in that odd front, standing them up, moving them around a little bit. Utilize it. Use it. Better have success with it because one thing that's for certain that Goody has done these last few years, he's invested a lot of draft capital, a lot of draft players into that defense. There's no more excuses. None. Joe Barry's job was already under the spotlight heading into this year. It got bigger. Gotta have success. This team is going to have to, if they still have these goals and aspirations to get to the to the playoffs and make a run there, it's got to be led by the defense. Got to be led by the defense this year. Overall, I like this class. I know I'm going really long here, and we got to take a break here. I like the class. I like the potential of this class. I think there's a lot that a lot of no, I'm gonna use the potential word again. I think there's a lot of really good potential with these youngsters. I'm excited to see these young players grow with a lot of the other young players on this ball club. I like it. It's gonna be an adjustment year. It's gonna be a learning year for some of these players, but I think the future looks pretty good. Again, based off of potential because we don't know how it's actually going to work. All right, really quick break, and then we might have a few seconds before the top of the hour. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Just a few seconds, and then well, it's the top of the hour already. So we'll get to your comments, your texts, your tweets, and your Facebook messages coming up on the other side of the hour here. Plus, we'll catch up with Justice Cleveland, catch up on some of the local stuff. Brewers month of April in the books. How would you grade that month for the Milwaukee Brewers? 18-10. Who's the player of the month, do you think, for the Brewers? Let's hand out a Player of the Month award for the Milwaukee Brewers, okay? We'll hit that up coming up in just a few minutes. All right, second hour on this Monday morning already flying on by. Appreciate you making this a part of your starts on this May 1st. Coming up, we're going to talk some Brewers. Who do you think was the player of the month for the Milwaukee Brewers for the month of April? Now that we've got a full month in to this baseball season, Brewers sitting at 18-10. We had to hand out some awards for player of the month. Who'd you give that to, and what has maybe stood out to you or impressed you or disappointed you the most for this 18-10 start, excuse me, for the Brew Crew? We'll get back to some more of your thoughts and analysis and comments on the Packers draft class as well. Studs and duds coming up next hour. So you can let us know who you think your studs and duds are. Let's say good morning to our good friend, Mr. JC and EC, Justice Cleveland, WEU Sports Director Extraordinaire. Good morning, Justice. How you doing?
Good morning. Oh, doing great. Doing great.
You feel like May out there for you?
It's May. I wake up on a Monday and I don't have to worry about an impending trade that had been lingering over the world for the last, I don't know, 45 days before it finally got done. It's like we can turn the page now.
You could be in Green Bay right now where they apparently woke up to snow on the ground. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's, winter is coming.
Yeah, exactly. So, I want to catch up on some of the local stuff here, and something that Justice, we were kind of talking about on Friday, but also this morning too. It was really cool to drive on by Claremont a couple times on Friday afternoon and at Simpson Field up there and seeing the first track and field home meet for the first time since 2008, which I think, they've won some national national championships in between those years too, so that makes it even more impressive. But pretty darn cool sight up there to see that full up, and seeing athletes from other schools running around Claremont warming up and such. But it was a cool sight to see on Friday.
Oh, I think it was really awesome. A really great event. First time for a championship organization, I say that as the track and field team, for them to be able to finally host since, first time in 15 years is awesome. Give credit to Chip Schneider, who I think might have put on like 150 miles running around the track meet, running it for UW Eau Claire on Friday. But it was cool. I was there for a good 5-6 hours covering it, and yeah, I mean, it's a team that's so good. They deserve to have that, and the fact that all the donors that have stepped up at Simpson Field and just continue to add the improvements to that area, and the work of Dan Schumacher as well to get that done. It's awesome, and I think it's we've got the lacrosse team playing there. You got the soccer team, now the track and field team, and it's on to the football team in a couple of years as well.
Definitely. So, hey, sticking with the Blue Golds, I know you were at your favorite summer location, Carson Park, a few days ago, checking out some WIAC baseball with UW Eau Claire and UW Stout. How would you assess where the Blue Gold baseball team is? Just still in its infancy at this point.
I think it's growing pains a little bit, as it's going to happen when you start. Especially, I think baseball, you try to step it up, but I think you can see the roots are there, and it's going to come through. I look at the pitching staff; it has its struggles at times, but at times you watch it out and you're like, okay, this is where it's going to get there. And then hitting wise, I mean, they got some hitters. They really do. I think the guy that sticks out is Walter Johnson, as I like to call him, the big train, to steal Walter Johnson, the Hall of Famer's nickname. But I've seen him just crush some baseballs. The one he hit on Saturday, that was against Stevens Point, went toward, if you know Carson Park, behind the right field wall, the fan deck, is the tennis courts. He hit one that would have landed like towards the end of towards that road that goes around Carson Park. I mean, he crushed one. So the development's there, and they're doing a good job with that team. It'll start clicking here. I think obviously this year they're having some growing pains again, but I look at that team and I see the numbers they have going out and the players on there that I think in the next couple of years here we're going to see them battle the top of the WIAC.
Awesome. Good stuff there. High school wise, Justice, I'm kind of curious. I know with this weather, it's probably been difficult, but have we had any high school golf action kind of, in the early parts here? I know it might be a little difficult hit and miss with the weather, but have we had some tournaments going on so far?
Yeah, the Big Rivers, I think, got in 3 last week.
Okay.
So, making up for lost time there with the weather. And, the weather wasn't great last week, but it was enough that you could get out there and play. And Eau Claire Memorial doing what they do, that's win.
Yeah.
And, winning those. And Will Schlitz, who you got to remember, Will Schlitz is already an individual state champion, and he's a junior. So
Man.
And he's out there and he was winning as an individual, but that whole team. One of the events, I think they had 4 out of their 5 in the top 10, all finishing shooting under because they're 9-hole events, shooting under 40. It's amazing, and that team is the hard work that they put in. It really pays off out on the course. So, I still got them penciled in as my favorite to go back to state and have a very good chance to defend that title.
Absolutely, man. Baseball wise, how BRC and that sort of thing. Anything kind of standing out to you on the prep baseball scene so far?
I think Chippewa Falls has had some very, very good games so far, and that's there's a lot of youth right now. We had a very senior laden BRC the last couple years, and now it's kind of the youth movement right now for a lot of these teams. But I think Chippewa Falls, for our area immediately right now, is the one that's kind of standing out the most. Memorial and North going through some growing pains as well, but playing some good baseball at times too. And then you look at Hudson. Hudson right now would be the one that's probably favorited to win the conference. River Falls is right around there. But I've watched Chippewa Falls a few times, and they're a team that every time I see them, they keep stepping up a little bit more. And it's tough getting out there because you're doing a lot of work in the gym, and then you got to go outside and play. And at least I think this week it looks like we're going to have some more consistent time outside. And maybe it's May. We're not that far away from the playoffs here.
Right.
Things are going to start ramping up in about 2 weeks to when we start doing the postseason for some of these sports. So, yeah, it's going to be a condensed schedule. They're going to be playing a lot of baseball, and that's what you want. Get a little bit better each game.
Right. It's kind of the same thing with softball. Would you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Chi High.
Yeah.
I mean, like I could have said it in my 13 years here. That I could say that every year. Chi High is just again finding ways to. It tells you so much about the youth programs and all in this area, that these teams from all around the Chippewa Valley can go out there and be competitive. So Chippewa Falls doing a great job. I saw Elk Mountain and Altoona play. Elk Mountain's off to a really good start. Mondovi softball, I believe, has either one loss or no losses as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's these teams that are out there battling the elements and battling the other teams, but, getting off to a good start. And again, we're about 2.5 weeks, they'll start the playoffs too.
Definitely. So, and I know we mentioned it in the beginning too. The Chippewa Steel, their postseason run ending on Friday nights, but first time in the postseason too. So, congrats on a great season for the Chippewa Steel too. So
yeah, a lot of enthusiasm with that team this year, and obviously when you have one of the best goalies in the country,
yep,
that helps too. So yeah, congrats to the Steel on a great season in their playoff run.
absolutely. So, all right, JC, breaking down some of the quick local stuff going on out there. I know we were talking quite a bit about the draft in the first hour there, Justice, but if you had to kind of maybe give us your summary or your initial thoughts on this 13-man draft class by Goody, does anything kind of stand out to you from this class?
I mean, it was a draft of necessity. You know what I mean? There they are, as much as people don't want to admit, they're in a rebuild mode. And when you lose as many players as you did, and you have salary issues like you've had, this is the kind of draft that you're going to get. Now, I mean, Lucas Van Ness, is it a stretch? Yeah, but if you look at some of his film out there, and the fact that he was playing behind 2 fifth-year starters,
yeah,
he's never started the game, but boy, did he make the most of his opportunities when he was out there on the field.
Clay Matthews, I think, only started 2 games in college too. I think that was a narrative. So,
if he has the intangibles, great. And here's the other intangible: his family's already got a lake house on Lake Geneva. So now at least he's working in Wisconsin and vacationing in Wisconsin. Unlike a million other people from Illinois that come on up. But I kid. No, I think only time will tell. Obviously, that's how it is with the draft. But if he shows off those intangibles and can really help that interior line, which definitely needed some help, and go off the edge and get some pressure, I think that's great. I think they did a really good job getting that help for Jordan Love on offense. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to complain they didn't go wide receiver in the first round, but I think me and you have done this how many years, and I don't like the wide receiver in the first round unless it's Justin Jefferson, because it's such a learning curve to get a wide receiver to be able to do what you want to do in the NFL. And again, go look through all the drafts in the last few years and see how many of those wide receivers have actually panned out. The list is short, so I'm okay with them going. I like the Luke Musgrave. I like the double getting 2 tight ends.
I love
Obviously,
that. I love
yeah,
doubling up. Yep.
you lose Tunyon, you lose Mercedes. You need one guy. You need these guys to step in here, and they're going to more than likely find a time to play right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of these guys, I know you're going to see out there because you just kind of have to at this point. Then you get 2 wide receivers as well, and the Jaden Reed one I like because that's your Randall Cobb spot right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's your guy who's gonna be your little kind of can be a scat back if you need him to be. Yes, he's 5'10", but as the scouting reports say, I mean he had made play after play in the Big Ten.
Yep. Special
I mean, this
teams
is
experience too.
right. So I think that's a good pick to kind of replace, unfortunately where Amari Rogers was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
the Packers at this point, and obviously is not because he's not with the team anymore. So yeah, and then I like the tight ends, and then you go quarterback, which you need depth at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same thing they did with Rodgers when he became the starter. You had Matt Flynn come in, Brian Brom as well.
Yep.
We know who won that one.
Yep.
But
One was
yeah,
a second round pick, and let's just say that second round pick didn't make the team. So
right. And Flynn outplayed him. I was there for that camp, and Flynn just darn right outplayed him. But yeah, so I like that. Like you get another wide receiver as well. I just looked at the whole draft, and it's basically what you're doing where you have all these positions, plenty of need,
mm-hmm.
and you're filling them in, and you're getting them with obviously it's going to be cheaper salaries than what you had in there, and kind of work your way back. It might be a struggle this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this team. I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, but I don't know if they went 8 and I want to say 8 and 8, but that doesn't happen anymore.
8 and 9.
Well, yeah, or 9 and 8 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of where Rodgers was his first season there with the Packers as a starter too. But who knows? Some of these guys could step in and do the job right away and do it at a high level. It'd be great to see. But all in all, I think a B.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an A+ draft in my mind because I think that first round it just isn't enough luster. But I don't know enough. Again, none of us know enough until they get on the field. But
right.
We'll see what happens.
I think one common theme here too, even like the defensive guys of Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden, it's athletic people, versatile players that Goody brought in, guys that can do a couple different things. You're not just going to pigeonhole, that defensive lineman. Oh, he's just an early downs guy to stop the run. It seems like Goody really emphasized a lot this year, and I know he usually does, but even maybe more so this year, players that could come in and do multiple things, even like a Lucas Van Ness a little bit. Is he a stand-up edge rusher? Could he line up, with the hand in the dirt, sort of thing? You mentioned the 2 tight ends, but those are 2 tight ends too that, you can obviously they're big, 6'6", 6'5". They can stretch the field, but also help out and run blocking here too. It just seems like this year Goody really emphasized those athletic players, and I'm excited to see these youngsters grow with the guys like Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs and these other youngsters from just a year or two ago here too. So that's what has me kind of excited about the next couple of years, is seeing all these players growing together right now.
Oh, I agree, and the pedigree that all of them have. You go down the list here. I mean, maybe Grant Bowe's from Charlotte, but still, the most your top 12 picks, major conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Bowling Green. But these guys have played big games, so I don't think it's gonna come in and this is gonna be overwhelming to them. Some of them, like a Luke Musgrave, who has an NFL pedigree with his family as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to go into this that these guys aren't going to be overwhelmed when they come in. Tucker Kraft playing at South Dakota State, a division, getting that BS championship there.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have played in big games. Anders Carlson, this is a guy who's played at kicking at Auburn. So he's had to kick in some big games. He's also, you were talking about size. I believe he's 6'5".
He's a big kicker.
That's a big leg to have swinging out there. So, yeah, I think these guys are going to come in and it's not going to phase them. Mm-hmm. They've played some big time college football. So, yeah, I like that as well. So I think just looking at that class, again, like you said, it'll be fun to watch them grow.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree. We'll get to some of your thoughts on the draft class coming up here in just a little bit, but we got to take a quick break, and then I want to talk a little baseball. That doesn't seem like it, but the month of April is over with. So the Brewers sitting there at 18-10, third best record in the National League, but they're second in their division behind the maybe biggest surprise so far in Major League Baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates, sitting there at 20-9. But looking at the first month of the season that's in the books now, what has kind of stood out to you for this Brewers team, maybe positive and negative? And who do you think would be the the player of the month for the Brewers. Play along with us. Hit us up with those texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or on Facebook, or on Twitter, or on the video stream. We'll take that quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Talk a little Brewers baseball after these few words. Don't forget to today, since it is May 1st, Eau Claire Express single game tickets going to be going on sale today. So first game already coming up on May 29th. May 29th against La Crosse, the home opener May 29th. So single game tickets going on sale today. So can't believe you're going to be that's starting at the end of the month here too. Countdown's on for some Express baseball. Can't wait for
At least that
that.
means warmth is coming, right?
Knock on wood. Don't
Yeah,
jinx it.
I hope that means warmth.
Exactly.
Yeah, the press box this weekend was not the toastiest, let me tell you.
We got a lot of those players too coming from California, even Hawaii and such over there. So it better be warm for those guys when they come over here. So
Yeah, I think we're going to turn the corner. Like I said, the Rogers trade's over. The dark cloud hanging over everybody's gone.
mm-hmm.
Like the sunshine in. Let the sunshine.
Look at Rogers too, making the rounds. He's still in New York. What Rangers game and then a Knicks and Heat game and that sort of thing. So
You
dude's
better be
getting
careful.
ingrained.
He's going to be co-owner of all those teams in the next couple of weeks now.
Yeah,
It's like
over under how
like
many times he shows up at a Bucks game in the next 3-4 years? Probably under 0.
once he's retired.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
Does he still own a percentage, or is that gone?
I think he still does.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if like maybe the sale to Haslam or had
Mm.
changed any of that. So
No, I don't. I think he still does. So, but
let's get David Bakhtiari a share. That guy's been to a
mhm.
ton of Bucks games.
Yeah, yeah. I think because Giannis, I think this is the one you kind of forget too. Giannis is a minority owner in the Brewers.
That's right.
You kind of forget about that one once in a while too. But
You need to learn. Well, I think I don't think he can really throw a baseball that well, but if you could get him to throw a baseball, it'd be like Randy Johnson out there.
no kidding. Holy moly!
Halfway to the plate by the time he's off releases from his hand.
Speaking of Brewers baseball, we're already a month in. Month of April in the books. Brewers sitting there at 18-10, second in their division behind the surprise Pittsburgh Pirates right now. But the Brew Crew went third best record in the entire National League. Would you say, Justice, kind of recapping the month of April, surpassing maybe some expectations or living up to those expectations for the Brewers, do you think?
I think surpassing, honestly. I think if you go 18-10, and I think this was they tied the most wins in April
Mm-hmm.
they've ever had in the franchise history. And I can't remember if 87 had more or not, but they were right there around that. You got to be happy. I mean, with this team, the amount of injuries that they've had, to still be able to battle back, take 2 or 3 from a loaded Angels roster there. Had a little struggle against, the Tigers and Red Sox earlier in the week, but, you end up getting right there around 500 for the week and finishing 18-10. I think I'm impressed. I obviously Pittsburgh's having the best April they've had in years, so you're behind them in the standings. But other than that, you would have a 4-game lead on Chicago for that next spot there. So I think this team is, overachieving, honestly, at this point.
I think when I agree with you because I think when you factor in Brandon Woodruff's been hurt. Corbin Burns, I don't think has been pitching to the level that maybe we thought. He's been a little inconsistent, right? I think that's fair to say for Corbin. Yeah. So you factor that in. No Aaron Ashby. You look at Garrett Mitchell's probably done for this year too. Luis Urias got hurt opening day. You factor all those injuries in and some minor ones here and there, and they're 18-10. Yeah, I would take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. If you told me all that played out that way and they're 18-10, third best record in the National League, I'm taking that. No doubt about it.
They're not relying on just one guy for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the pitching wise, I mean, you have Corbin Burns, but Wade Miley, I think you'd have to say he's been a surprise coming in. Freddie Peralta has been very consistent, and that's what you want when you have Woodruff out there. You need Peralta to step up to that 2 spot in the rotation, and then just pitching in general. I mean, 3.41 earned run average for the team. That's 4th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, so you got 11 quality starts already. Batting average, teams are hitting only 233 against. So those are, if they can maintain that, that's a playoff team. I think William Contreras, I mean, he's not going to put up the big home run numbers right now, but he's been consistent. He's been back there, he's been starting, and he's been getting hits every time he's in the lineup. So that's what you want from a guy you bring in. So I think, the amount of the load isn't just being hauled by one guy. You'll have games like when Rowdy went on, that run there for a while, just having great. But like Brian Anderson, already with 20 RBIs this season, that's what you wanted him to come in and do. So, yeah, I think they're playing very, very well, and obviously, it's not going to be easy to maintain this the whole season. And St. Louis will somehow be, they're 9 games under the 500. It's St. Louis. Never turn your back on the Cardinals.
Turn them. Yep, exactly.
They'll make a run. So I expect it to be Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, and St. Louis battling towards the top. And Chicago has been playing around 500 baseball, and that's what you need to do to stay in the playoff hunt. So There's a lot of baseball to be played, but it's a good first month for the Brewers.
I think the one thing too that, and maybe not the biggest surprise, but to see it actually in fruition is the defense of this team.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of, there was question marks. I think for every team, okay, how is it going to look? Banning the shift, the importance of speed, and on not able to move an extra infielder and that thing over there. But you look at Joey Weimer, the defense that he's playing now, he's probably going to, I would say, your new everyday starting center fielder with, Garrett Mitchell being out, the youngster there, Bryce Terang, the defense that he has been able to provide over at second base. And then you mentioned Brian Anderson, for what he's able to do both in right field and at third base. I mean, the arm strength that guy has is just
Yeah.
ridiculous. I think I saw they're number one in defense in baseball by defensive runs saved. I mean, so you have all these new guys or young guys helping contribute to the defensive effort. That to me is what is one of the many things that has really stood out so far this year.
And you got to give the bullpen a lot of credit, too.
Yeah.
You have Devin Williams, who has just been lights out doing what he's had to do. Now hasn't allowed a run yet, getting the saves. But other guys, I mean, it's almost compared to the years past, this is very much a no-name bullpen that comes in and gets the job done. And it really has. I mean, you got guys like Strzelecki coming in, pitched 14 games already. Bryce Wilson. I mean, this is, they've given up runs. I mean, you had like a Matt Bush who had his struggles, but I think we know now maybe more injury related than we really know. But for the most part, that bullpen has stepped in and done an outstanding job. And if they can keep that up too and protect those leads, yeah, this team is just it's fun. It really is a fun team to watch because it is just so much all over the place. I think that, the places that you would see for improvement is just need Christian Yelich to get somewhere near old Christian Yelich. 223 right now is not what you want from him. He still gets on base. Credit to him. I mean, he'll get your walks, but yeah, if they can get him up to a level, if he can warm up here as the weather warms up, that would be huge as well.
All right, this might be a little dramatic or maybe a little reach, but is it fair to say the Brewers are winning despite Christian Yelich right now?
I think you can say that because he's your superstar. He's the guy who's making all the money, and he just isn't quite where he needs to be. Now, I'm not going to say he hasn't been horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you want to see him closer, at least over 250. This is a guy who can hit 300. At least has done it in the past, and it just kind of has faded the last few years. But again, this is a guy who hit 329 and 326. Obviously, during his 2 years where he won the MVP and then was second, he hasn't been anywhere near that in the 4 seasons since. So if you can get somewhere, I think last year, if you can get him back to like 252, which, that second half of the season, he really hit a lot better. And that's when they had kind of moved him up to that, leadoff position there. But you need to get more from him for how much you're paying him.
I totally agree there. Player of the month, if we had to do a player of the month, I mean, do you almost do it as a group for the bullpen? I might throw Wade Miley. I know you mentioned him there a little bit there too. But I if we're doing individual players, I might have to throw him in there just because of how he looks like the Wade Miley, the healthy Wade Miley. I don't want to say just the 2018 version because after that, when he was healthy, he was still pretty good. But he looks like a healthy, very solid Wade Miley at this point.
Yeah, I think you could throw him in there. I think Rowdy.
Yep.
He's hitting. He's been doing what you'd want to see more from Christian Yelich, which is good. To have somebody like Rowdy coming out there and be a home run threat every time he steps up there too. And I think you got to throw Brian Anderson in that conversation as well. Yep. So, yeah, I mean that's the nice thing. It's not like we said. It's just not one guy. There are different guys that Jesse Winker might not be hitting the home runs, but some of the defense that he plays out there has been just outstanding as well. And the thing, you can go down this whole lineup and just you can see something positive. I'm surprised there's like Mike Brasso hasn't got as much playing time that I thought he would coming out of spring training. The way that he was really hitting. But I mean, he probably will a little bit more now. But yeah, I mean, Joey Weimer.
I
was thinking Weimer. I think I got my Weimer and Winker stuff. Weimer with the defensive plays. That's who's been just, and these just young guys. It's fun too because they're young. There's a lot of young guys, and that's always fun to watch when a team is young and is having success.
Right, and I think I saw this nugget here a little bit earlier, going back to the pitching thing here, Justice. Colin Ray yesterday, 9 strikeouts in the game. That's the most by a Brewer starter this year so far.
Wow. That is surprising.
Right?
But I guess, yeah, because Burns hasn't been quite, lights out every start. Oh,
And
that is
Woodruff's been banged up. So, it's like that to me, if you'd have told me all those numbers, especially with the starters and kind of how it's been going and heading into this year, you mentioned the bullpen outside of Devin Williams, it was like a bunch of who and what, and then some injuries and youngsters to say you have the third best record in the NL. Absolutely, it's been a fantastic month of April.
It really has. And you look at the starters: Corbin Burns 3-1, Wade Miley 3-1, Freddie Peralta 3-2, and Eric Lauer 3-2. Your top 4 starters all have 3 wins and have winning records. That's solid considering you're missing arguably your second best, if not sometimes right up there with Burns with Woodruff and all the other injuries that they have had. So, yeah, I think this is, like you said, this is a team that you would take 18-10 in April from any team, but for this team, I think that's them playing, right now playing just out of their mind.
Yeah, and I think too with those win-loss records, you tip your cap a little bit to the offense for providing the how many times, because how many times over the years have we said great start, quality start, but no run support again for a Brewer starter, so no decision there or a loss even.
Yeah, if you're Matt Arnold, you got to feel good too coming in, being general manager, and seeing the way this team has performed. And there's wiggle room, and what will be their what will happen at the break? Will it be competitive? But because they're young, so that's a nice factor too.
Yep. So the Brewers are off day today before they start a little bit of I guess kind of a West Coast trip here, but they are going out west. They got 3 games against Colorado starting tomorrow, then a weekend series against the Giants before returning home next week, starting a 3-game series against the Dodgers. And then you're kind of looking at the rest of the schedule here. You got the Royals in next weekend, but then 3 games against the Cardinals on the road, and then the red-hot Tampa Bay Rays on the road there too, and then you return home to face Houston. So that'll be an interesting start. And then you finish the month of May off on the road against Toronto, and so another tough May coming up here for the Brew Crew. We'll see what they're kind of made of there, Justice, throughout this month.
I say that'll definitely be a good test and a good stretch because a lot of those teams are going to be battling for playoff spots.
Absolutely. So they finish off a tough April. I think, what was it? I saw the number a couple weeks ago. Before the season started, the Brewers had like the 3rd toughest schedule based off the strength of schedule sort of thing, which I think gets overblown once in a while. But they were supposed to have the 3rd toughest schedule to begin the month of April too. And well, look at how they did. They swept the Mets and take care of the Cardinals. Have a very successful long West Coast trip. So fantastic start so far here for the Brew Crew. And well, I mean, first month of April, would you say the Pittsburgh Pirates and Tampa Bay? How much of it? I mean, I don't want to say the Tampa Bay Rays are a huge surprise because they're always like up there in the division, but the fact that the way they're winning, Justice, is it a little bit surprising to you?
Well, I think so. I think I mean, Pittsburgh to me obviously is the biggest surprise. I don't think anybody would have picked them to win 20 games in April, but yeah, Tampa, and the fact that they've actually got that city like excited for baseball.
Yeah,
they've obviously had some really good years there, but their attendance is up. It's good. It's good for baseball for Tampa Bay to be doing what they're doing because Florida baseball at times can drag down. Both with the Marlins and the Rays, and you're not getting fans and stuff like. But to have a team like the Rays just crushing the ball. I don't know what their average runs per game is, but feels like it's around 8 or 9.
Yeah,
every game playing.
Their run differential is I mean, it's what I just had it up here. It's unreal. It's 103 right now.
Jeez.
Plus 103.
Like the Brewers, was it last year or 2 years ago, were like minus, but somehow had like we're like 3 or 4 games above 500.
Yeah,
that tells you just how good they're hitting the ball. So yeah, I think obviously, but things with the East, yeah, they have a big lead, but everybody in that division is over 500.
And the last place, New York Yankees.
Right. You tell me if the Yankees, here's a bet, like if you were to go to Vegas, that the Yankees and the Cardinals will both still be in last place.
Oh,
by the end of the season. Like, what would be the odds of that actually happening?
I
That,
would
that
not feel good if I had to place that bet.
no, exactly. So those are teams that are still loaded enough that they're going to make a run. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay doesn't have even at 23-6, they're only 3.5 games ahead of Baltimore. So
Hmm.
there's not a whole lot of Yes, they're playing outstanding baseball, but they're going to have pressure on them the whole rest of the summer.
Absolutely. All right, hey, we got to restart the Zoom here, so we'll do that here and then finish up this hour with Justice. I want to go back to Green Bay here for a second. Goody was answering a question over the weekend about Jordan Love's fifth-year option. That deadline's coming up here. Maybe some interesting comments from Goody, or just playing a little coy. We're going to take a look at that and get your assessment on that too. So we'll take a quick break. And then we'll finish up this second hour with Mr. Justice Cleveland coming up in just a couple minutes. I might have to make myself an appointment at the chiropractor there at JC. Been ripping up tile in the man cave, getting ready for a new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center. I'm too old to be doing that stuff, man.
Yeah, I could too after shooting track and field on Friday on my feet for like 6-7 hours, and then the next day coming back and shooting 5 softball and baseball game total. So yeah, I can feel you there.
Yeah, it's as my 5-year-old said too, Dad, you're too old to be doing this. So I'm like, hey, you're not wrong. You're not
Yeah,
wrong.
no,
So
I replaced the bathroom floor last year, and it was like, oh my goodness, how did I used to be able to move like
I know. Holy moly. So catching up on a couple of texts here. We got let's go with Brett here. Dan, I like the draft class. I think they're going to try to control the middle of the field on offense and get more pass rush up the gut. I think it'll be a really competitive training camp. Only head scratcher was Clifford. I also wonder if we're going to see more of a 4-3 front. Where did they just all go here? We got another text here too from Mike here. I thought the first pick was a reach for a guy who never even cracked the starting lineup, but going through the whole list has me feeling better, except head scratcher at the kicker. I like the intelligent backup quarterback. Well, like we said with Van Ness too. I mean, there could be Clay Matthews. What he started maybe 1 or 2 games at USC,
right.
but that's also a Kirk Ferentz Iowa thing too, where he starts the fifth year
Right.
seniors ahead.
When you have 2 guys that have that much experience, and, he was playing very well when he was matched up with some of those guys too. So I
Right.
don't think it's too indicative on what he was doing, but when you have that much experience and it's talented experience, you're probably gonna put them on the field before, a sophomore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not
I
too
look at the
worried.
numbers, and the guy, even if he wasn't starting, was still putting up better numbers too. So.
Yeah. I mean, that was the easiest thing because that was the first talking point you heard.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a guy who never started the game and now has a chance to start in the NFL. It's like, yeah, but there's circumstances to everything like that.
Right. Was it? I know it's a different sport, but was it the '05 NBA draft? Remember that North Carolina team that Roy Williams won a championship with? But Marvin Williams was the second overall pick, and he was the 6th man for that USC
Right.
or for that North Carolina team.
Yeah. There's different reasons for everything. Michael Jordan got cut.
I did
From
not
his
know
JV.
that. I
Yeah,
didn't.
exactly. So there you go.
We got G-Man. I like what the Pack did. My favorite is the first 4 picks that the Pack picked. The Brewers won another series. The Brewers and JR's twins will be in the World Series. Both JR and I will be at the World Series games. Both off to a great start. And way to go to the Kraken. My daughter was at Game 6 in the Kraken
Oh,
series.
awesome.
Yeah, our
How
Kraken,
about
man.
we the inevitable, if you're the best team in the NHL
Yeah,
in the regular season, you're more than likely going to lose.
you
Not
know,
making the cup.
I was going through this list in my head last night, JC. You've got well, I guess you could throw the Bucks in this year too. Best record and not getting
Yes.
past
Yep.
the first round. But you immediately think of, okay, who are the best teams in the regular season to not win a championship? You go to the Warriors, they lost in the finals to LeBron. You go to the Mariners, was that 2001? They lost in the American League Championship Series to the Yankees. But you look at Boston here, man. I mean, Patriots, they lost in the Super Bowl, obviously there too. But you look at the Boston Bruins, man, they didn't even win the series. Those other ones at
Right.
least won a series, but oof, yikes.
Yeah, that's a rough one, especially how dominant they were during the regular season. But that's hockey. I hate to say it, but you get into playoff hockey and you can throw those records out the window. But yeah, it really is true. I feel like more in the NHL playoffs than anything. That
Mm-hmm.
you're right. If you find you run into a hot goalie, it could be over like that, and that's what Boston found out.
Yep, definitely. Hey, I want to finish up this hour. So we got the 5th-year option deadline coming up here, and it's important for Green Bay because well, the man they have to decide whether the Packers are going to pick up a 5th-year option on is their new starting quarterback, Jordan Love. And Goody was asked about it on Saturday after the draft, and I thought it was kind of an interesting answer he gave Justice. He said, "We're still kind of working through that. We've been so focused on the draft. We've had some preliminary conversations, but we'll get to that before Tuesday." He was asked why he wouldn't trigger the option. He said, "It's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't played." And this kind of if you remember, it was a few months ago, he pretty much hinted that they already made the decision on the 5th-year option. But, the fact that I think he just flat out said it's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't played, I think maybe raised a little bit of eyebrows that maybe this wasn't a slam dunk sort of thing. What do you still think they'll pick up that 5th-year option for
I
Jordan
think
Love?
they I think they will, but I think they're playing a little bit of, negotiating tactics here
Mhm.
a little bit. But I feel like you have to, unless you just want to see what he does this year, but then you're running into, issues of how much is that going to make Jordan Love feel
Right.
that you have, how much does that feel that you have faith in him? So, yeah, I think it's just a little bit of just playing a little coy, as we said earlier, just kind of just keeping the cards a little close to yourself to
To the
before you.
vest, yeah.
Yeah, I think you want to see what maybe you want to see what he does in some of these mini camps or something like that. And then when is the deadline date again?
Tomorrow.
Oh, never mind. You
Yeah.
want to see what you want to do in those camps. Yeah. So never mind about that. But yeah, we'll see.
The other
Yeah,
there's 2 other scenarios if you don't pick up I mean, maybe only 1. If you don't pick it up, he goes into this year under a contract year, essentially. So if he balls out or if he plays well, Green Bay could do a franchise tag, right?
right.
They could do that. But the downfall of that franchise tag is more than a 5th-year option. So, I mean, you could do that, but then, it's like, well, if you don't pick up the option, or if you do pick up the option, but what if Jordan Love really struggles this year? Then you're stuck with that. But I mean, how much are we going to decide based off 1 year this year only whether Jordan Rogers,
Aaron Rodgers.
Jordan Love is the is the future starter? I mean, are we only going to give him a year? I can't imagine the Packers are just going to give him 1 year to see that. Do you?
Right. I don't. I mean, I don't know if it's a Trey Lance situation
Hmm.
like you saw in San Francisco, where obviously he got injured, but they're almost they were almost ready to move on to Brock Purdy.
Right.
So yeah, I don't
Unless
know. I
Green
think
Bay just like really tanks this year, they get the number 1 pick and they get Caleb Williams.
yeah, my goodness. Uh you got to give him more than a year. I mean, you see how it goes. I mean, if he's comes out and he's absolutely atrocious, and you're replacing him
Hmm.
midway through the year, if Sean Clifford's getting starting reps in year one for then yeah.
Yeah. I
But
yeah, I feel like they're still gonna pick it up by tomorrow.
I do too. I think they'll do it. I think that because you're more adept with the contract situations. Could they just renegotiate and sign a new contract? But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I the dollars and cents things is not my forte. That's why I'm not working the cap for
Right.
one of these teams. But it's such a risk. But I think if you didn't think you knew you had something, you wouldn't have let Aaron Rodgers go.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think the main thing being they think they have something there. So I think you're right. I think they do pick it up.
I think they pick it up and, even if they wanted, I know that's gonna be like 20 some $1,000,000 guaranteed cap hit next year and all that, but, what they all could do too is they could agree to a new contract or, kinda lower that cap hit or something like that. I don't know what it would be. I mean, I think from a business standpoint, obviously, Green Bay would probably love to have a cheaper contract after just getting through Aaron Rodgers' contract, and next year, you don't have Rodgers on the books, but you got a big contract for your already other quarterback, I think they'd
Yeah.
probably like to, "Hey, can we get a few years?" But that's not gonna be the case here probably unless they do. It's only a one and done for Love, which I would think would surprise a lot of people at that
Right.
point, but
I think yeah, like I said, I think they're obviously they've been preoccupied
mhm,
with
yeah.
something else. I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Mhm. Yep, I agree. So, I think it'll happen. I think it'll just be, a lot of talk for nothing, at this point. But, he is right though too. It is I mean, he's I don't think he's wrong in saying it's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't played. You know, it kinda goes
Yeah.
back to the old school rookie deals. You're giving Sam Bradford and Jamarcus Russell like 70, $80 million without taking a snap, in the NFL. So, it's kinda throwing it back to there a little bit. But at least
Yeah.
here they've
Sorry, I was
no
gonna say it's funny that we're obviously you're not getting those huge contracts like rookies used to get, but in a way, if you're a GM, you're still finding a way to to you lessen that cap hit, even with these smaller contracts than what they used to be.
Can you imagine if those rookie deals were still the same? Uh,
Um, you'd be, yeah. I mean, there'd be guys making insane, like maybe Lamar, not Lamar Jackson, but up there
right. So
track
like
wise.
Bryce Young, first overall pick. I mean, would he probably get a 5-year deal that was about almost 200 million?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it would easily, and that's where you would see the negotiations really ramp back up again too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There would be
Uh,
teams that just wouldn't be able to afford it.
no. And it's just like I think that's one of the best moves that they ever did was put that, rookie. I'm sorry, guys, get what you're worth, but put that rookie at least initially, and then after a couple of years, you can renegotiate that. Like Joe Burrow's going to get a huge contract coming up here soon, right?
Yeah,
We know he's probably going to be the highest paid quarterback coming up here pretty soon. But
yeah,
can you
it's gonna
imagine?
happen.
Yeah, if Bryce Young was going to get without playing a snap, almost $40 million per year, adjusting it to what the market is right now. Holy moly! And for anybody
Right.
saying that would never happen, it would happen.
Oh, it would,
It would
because somebody
100% would.
you're gonna have an owner that's gonna go out there, Jerry Jones,
Yep.
and spend an insane amount
Mm-hmm.
on an early draft pick, and then everybody else has to follow suit.
Yep. And it's all about the agents too, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh
So,
yeah.
yep.
It's a lot about the agents.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Rosenhaus out there.
I just can't even fathom how different things would be right now.
Yeah, I mean, as much as the players probably weren't happy about it, but it's a it's a good deal for these franchises trying to do this.
Mm-hmm. And these teams trying to build with rookie, the whole narrative about rookie quarterbacks or winning with the quarterback on a rookie contract, we would never have heard about that, right? We
No,
never would have heard about that, and that building that way would never have happened. Man, there's a what if there. So,
yeah, big one.
all right, JC, we're going to be cut off here in about a minute or so. So, how many times have you hit the golf course right now? A couple, you said.
A couple. I'm not counting the first two.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Practice rounds. Practice
practice
rounds.
rounds. What?
Like I said, I started out my year hitting the pin on the first hole and then three putting, and it's followed suit pretty much the other two times out. So
Now, did you golf like in Arizona or something? Did you say?
no,
Oh no,
no,
no, maybe that was somebody else. Okay.
yeah, no. I stay away. It would be too tempting, and then it would just be so hard to come back here and sit for 3 months
Mm-hmm.
now this year, especially, and
Right.
not do it. So yeah, I usually don't touch them until I start going out in the backyard, hitting the wiffle and the foam golf balls. That's my then head out to the driving range every once in a while.
Anybody watching you in the backyard, like assessing
I
your
don't
game?
know. I'm afraid. People walking by. I'm just like, because obviously every once in a while you're gonna hit one it's a wiffle ball, but it goes, it's
Right.
like Ben Sheets curveball to the right or something like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, no. See me, my wife is the one who sees me take the big chunks of the yard out sometimes. That's
Yeah.
probably the big thing. I got one of those nice little AstroTurf mat now things that
Nice.
are it's like what you'd have at the driving range. So I'm saving my lawn a little bit.
Third and final hour kicking off on this Monday morning. What up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. However, wherever you may be tuning in from on this May 1st. Coming up, we'll get back to some more of your thoughts and comments on this Packers draft class. If you haven't chimed in with your thoughts, go ahead and do so. Hit us up with some text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or you can find me on Twitter at DANKASPER, also Facebook.com /Kasper Sports. Hey, forgot to do some sports nuggets of the day about an hour ago, so let's hit that up right now. Some sports nuggets of the day brought to you by Yancey Associates. It was in 1883 in Philadelphia. The first National League game was played since 1876. Okay. Let's go with 1901. Herb McFarland hit the first grand slam in the American League. Let's go 1920. Babe Ruth hit his first home run as a New York Yankee. It was his 50th career home run. 1920 as well. The Brooklyn Dodgers and the Boston Braves tied after a 26-inning game. We got 1922. Charlie Robertson with the White Sox pitched a perfect no-hit, no-run game against the Detroit Tigers. The Sox won 3-0. Another perfect game did not come along until 46 years later. Satchel Paige in 1926 made his pitching debut in the Negro Southern League. Mickey Mantle, 1951, hit his first home run. We've got... what else do we got? Anything else? 1986, Bill Elliott set a stock car speed record when he went 212.229 miles per hour. I always remember Bill Elliott with the McDonald's car, right? I remember that as a kid. Nolan Ryan in 1991 pitched his seventh no-hitter. And then 1992, Ricky Henderson stole his 1,000th base. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Again, brought to you by Yancey Associates. Let's do some studs and duds here this morning. For my studs, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with well, I mean, come on, it's a pretty cool darn thing. Studs. Every player that was drafted in the annual NFL player selection meeting, whatever it used to be called back in the day. I mean, let's give them a shout out to all those studs for accomplishing their dreams. Actually, could this also be our motivational Monday here too? But for these kids, for these young men to enter this new chapter of their lives and accomplishing and still chasing their dreams of playing professional sports, playing in the professional football league, it's pretty darn motivational, and it's also worthy of a stud in our studs and duds for this morning. So also I got to put Steph Curry in for some studs, dropping 50 in game 7 against the Sacramento Kings. Now I saw a lot of people on the Twitter sphere, which can get a little dangerous here, but with a moment like that, when it's the playoffs and it's a game 7, it's going to spark up a conversation of where do you put him on the rankings of greatest of all time in terms of player lists in the NBA. Is Steph Curry right now a top 10 player of all time? Do you think Steph Curry is a top 10 player of all time? You got MJ, you got LeBron, you got Bill Russell, you got Kareem, you got Wilt, Larry Bird, Magic, Kobe. Put other players on there too. Is Steph Curry a top 10 NBA player of all time? I'd have to think about that. Top 20, I'd probably say yes without really thinking about it. But top 10, I'd have to sit down and think about it. I saw some people already putting him at like 8 or in the top 10. Even above a guy like Kobe. I don't know if I'm ready to do that. But you want to talk about a player who has definitely changed the game? Steph Curry is on that short list of players in any sport to have changed the game. I mean, we're talking obviously with his shooting and his, deep 3-pointers and that. When I think about changing the game, and I think about how it's like influenced others and even players and teams and the youngsters, Steph Curry is easily on that list. The other studs I was going to do a shout out to everyone who participated in the Eau Claire Marathon yesterday. Conditions stunk for it. Wind, obviously a little rain and wet in that, but that didn't stop you. So shout out to all the participants for the Eau Claire Marathon yesterday, studs, and even the volunteers and the workers for being out there too to make that a wonderful event too. So studs, everybody involved in the Eau Claire Marathon. Duds, I gotta go Boston Bruins. I'm sorry, but I mean you have the best regular season record in the NHL. You set records all across the board, and you can't get through your first playoff series for crying out loud. You can't do it. By the way, studs, Kraken, come on now. Second year in existence, winning a playoff series. Boom. But back to the Bruins. I mean, okay. They have now joined that list with the Golden State Warriors as best record to not win a championship. You got the Mariners. Was it the 2001 Mariners? Lost in the American League Championship Series to the Yankees. You've got, if you want to go way back, was it the 06 Cubbies that also won 116 games? They lost in the World Series. Obviously, the New England Patriots, their undefeated season ended in the Super Bowl with a loss to the Giants. So you got the Bruins joining that list. I mean, you could throw in, you could throw the Bucks in for this year too. 1 seed, best record in the NBA, not winning a playoff round. You could throw in the 2011-2012 Green Bay Packers, 15-1, number 1 seed. Don't win a playoff series or don't win a playoff round. They lose to the Giants. You get to join that list now, Boston Bruins. You get to join that list. A list you do not want to be on. It's regular seasons are so, in any sport, regular seasons, obviously they're important because they tell you if you're going to go to the postseason or not, but nobody really cares about regular season numbers. Wins, statistics, or anything like that. I mean, once in a while we'll talk about, regular season records and, baseball, it's the home run ball or touchdown passes or points scored or anything like that. But you don't hear anything about 73-9 Warriors. They don't win it. They don't win a championship. Don't matter what they did in the regular season. They don't win it. 2001 Mariners, don't hear about that. Great, you won 116 games. Don't matter. For all this, attention we pay into regular seasons and wins in the regular seasons and this, that, and the other, it don't matter if you don't do anything with that when it comes to the postseason. Postseasons where legacies are made. Hall of Fame careers might be built in the regular season, but legacies are defined in the postseason. Right now, the Boston Bruins, they join that list of duds of regular season winners to not do anything in the postseason. So those are my studs and duds. If you want to play along, you can send yours on over if you would like. I want to go through some more comments here about the Packers draft class. If you haven't given us your analysis or thoughts, you can do so. We've got this was from Jake chiming in. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the draft. Most of us like to think we know what's best for the team, but we are on the outside and have no clue. Last year, I thought we were crazy for how our wide receiver room entered the season. I thought the same this year, and they addressed that. Even more so this year was the tight end situation. I was hoping for JSN with the first pick, but Van Ness was my second favorite. I was not a fan of the Musgrave pick. However, once they paired it with Kraft shortly after, I was more okay with it. Couldn't help but notice two common themes with quite a few picks: special teams contributors and versatility. Very excited to watch this young team develop together over the next 2 to 3 years. And yes, the defense better start off where they left off last year, or there will need to be a change made there. So looks like for the most part, most of you going with some positive grades in here. We got What do we got here? I was thinking they would go with a few more picks in the secondary, but what do I know? That was from Travis. And I know a lot of people have thought that the safety depth in this class was a little weak, which I think you kind of saw where the safety started to go in this draft. And I know Goody had mentioned in his post draft presser that they had still been in constant communications with Adrian Amos. So we'll see if something transpires from that. But nonetheless, I like the draft. And again, I'm not grading this thing. I'm not going to grade it because we don't know how these players are going to go. I'm not going to say B, C, D, F, A, whatever the heck it may be, because I think you got to look at it from a couple of years from now. But I think what we can do is look at it based off the potential of these players and how it fits some of the needs or the holes of this roster, or it kind of gives you an idea of how they're constructing this team and this roster. And I like it. I like it how the picks went. I especially liked day 2 getting 2 tight ends and a wide receiver. And the thing is, with these youngsters, they're going to get playing time right away. They're going to get playing time. They're going to get snaps right away. They're going to get reps right away. A lot of these guys, they don't have a whole lot of veterans sitting behind or sitting ahead of them that they're going to have to wait their turn, especially the wideouts. You got Watson and Dobbs as and Samari Torre as your veterans right now. And I think the one thing that I'll be curious about here is I know, LaFleur's mentioned it. I think even Goody's kind of mentioned it, that they'll be looking, or they would like to look to add some veterans or a veteran to that wide receiver room. But with how the draft went, where they drafted 3 wide receivers, they've already got Watson and they've already got Dobbs, assuming that they're going to still keep Smart-Tory, but you never know. I mean, that's 6 right there, just counting the second year and the rookies. Are they still of the mindset of bringing in a veteran? And that's maybe kind of I think it would be a benefit to them to still bring in a veteran. I mean, you're not going to get a legit number 1 wide receiver at this point in time. But I think you can maybe look out there and see what's potentially available. And when you're bringing in that veteran, it's gonna, I think, mostly almost be as a mentor role. You want a guy that is going to be able to contribute, obviously on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays or whatever. You want a guy that's going to be able to contribute, but you're not necessarily going to get a guy that's going to be your number 1 target and he's going to get over 1,000 yards receiving and double-digit touchdowns or anything like that. But it's almost like he's kind of that mentor coach type of position, or kind of like maybe Randall Cobb, last year or so. That type of player. I guess he is still technically available, I believe, but I still think Green Bay will probably try to find a bargain in terms of a veteran wide receiver. Defensively, we keep saying it. There's no excuse. I love the defensive lineman Colby and Brooks that they brought in, that versatility that those defensive linemen can bring. It's interesting that combine numbers, they actually compared them to linebackers. They listed them under linebackers, but Green Bay's already kind of come out and said they're going to be defensive linemen. But I think what that tells you is the versatility that they can bring. They're not the biggest defensive linemen. They're not the biggest guys out there, which to some people might say, how's that going to help stop the run? Might put a little bit more importance on Slayton to be that early down run stopper. Maybe you want some more mass up front. But I'll be curious to see how Joe Barry is going to put, the best 11 guys out there. And of course, defense, you're going to have different packages. You're going to have nickels. You're going to have, remember Dom Capers had the NASCAR package where it was like all his, pass rushers out there and that sort of thing. I mean, you've got some versatility. You've got some unique options where you can put those guys out there. And I'll be curious to see how Barry does that. Because we all know, and like we've been saying it since last week. We've been saying it, all morning. There is no excuse for this defense. If this team still has, and I think if you're going to ask a lot of those guys on there, maybe not Dave Bakhtiari, but I mean, they're going to go out there and try to win every darn single game every week and try to get to the postseason and make a run and such. But the only way this team's going to do it is it's got to be led by that defense. Defense has to do it. Got to be. For all the investment that they've made, both draft picks and, money-wise too, if you think about it, with Jair and Devondre Campbell, they gave Rasul Douglas a contract, Kenny Clark. Got to be led by the defense. Because there's going to be a lot of up and down and kind of, a feeling out process and getting used to each other on the offensive side of things. It's going to be a little inconsistent on the offense. It's got to be led by the defense. I want to talk a little bit more about this offense after this draft. So we'll take a quick break. And then don't forget, Brewers fans, we are looking for your player of the month for April as well. Hit me up with those picks. We got a few tickets left for the bus trip for Brewers and Twins coming up June 14th. We just got a few left. So you want to get on the bus with us, head to wiscotrips.com. That's wiscotrips.com. And click on the best way to do it is click on the Twins tab that's up front, and you'll be able to see it on there. But for just $95, you get your game ticket, round trip, motor coach transportation. You can bring some coolers and such. Coolers must be small enough to fit under your seats or be placed beneath the bus. But bus will leave from Sam's Club here in Eau Claire at 9 a.m. sharp on Wednesday, June 14th. So if you want to get on the bus and take in some Brewers, Twins, both teams off to a good start so far this year, you let us know. Okay, let us know, or not let us know. Sign up and get your ticket now. Just head to wiscotrips.com. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the offense here for the green and gold. So obviously, this draft, 7 of the 13 players were offensive players. 7 of the 13 were offensive players. That includes 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. You also had a running back in there and a backup quarterback. Notice, though, there was no offensive lineman drafted by the Green Bay Packers. You know, a lot of the mocks, right? A lot of the mocks had the Packers maybe going with an offensive lineman in the first round or at least early in the draft. But, God, this chair really squeaks in that. I apologize. Hopefully we can get a new one in here soon. But no offensive lineman drafted by the Packers. Does that tell us anything? Maybe not. I think maybe it kind of tells you. Remember, Green Bay did invest in a few draft picks last year on offensive linemen. So you kind of take a look at that a little bit here. I think they want to see what they got with those guys. Obviously, Yash is coming back. We're probably going to have another year of David Bakhtiari. At this point, you got Zach Tom as kind of that guy that can, play him. He's the next Elton Jenkins, play multiple different spots in the line. Rasheed Walker. And then, it'll be interesting with their third-round pick, Sean Ryan. If he can make a jump this year, he was probably one of the more disappointing ones last year because was he a third-round pick last year, third-round pick last year? Got one offensive snap or one we didn't see him at all. And then, of course, getting suspended for violating the substance abuse policy in the NFL. So be nice to see him take a nice jump this year and be a guy that, can provide a little depth here. But no offensive lineman. Maybe that surprised some people. With this draft. But looking at the offense, there's no doubt they really invested on surrounding Jordan Love with some skill position players, even helping him out a little bit in the quarterback room with Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford. There was a great line. I mentioned it in the first hour. There was a great line from somebody that said, Sean Clifford might just be, born to be a backup quarterback. Like he might be just that guy. His intelligence is what everybody talks about with Sean Clifford. Is just kind of off the charts how smart the guy is. So you bring him into that quarterback room and pair it up with Jordan Love, I think is going to be, well, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Green Bay decided to bring him in, is to bring in that, maybe another set of eyes, another set of intelligent eyes to help out Jordan Love and such. But, I don't think anybody's expecting him to be, the next starter, future starter, or, anything like that. But you got to bring in some guys that can help out Jordan Love in that quarterback room. The days leading up to the game, even during the game, looking at the iPads, breaking everything down, helping out Tom Clements. So I don't mind the Clifford pick. In fact, I had him in my mock draft. I'm not expecting him to go out there and win games. Obviously, you'd like a capable backup quarterback, and I know Green Bay has talked about possibly bringing in a veteran and such. But, with what he brings to the table, maybe with his off-the-field sort of stuff, the intelligence, helping out in the meetings and such, I'm okay with it. I wouldn't be surprised if they still try to bring in a veteran at this point, but we'll see. But what I think, when you look at this, and if you kind of want to do maybe a little bit of a depth chart here on May 1st, and looking at the skill position players here, you got Christian Watson, you got Romeo Dobbs, you've got, Jaden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State. You got Wicks, Grants, Samari Torrey. That's a lot of youngsters. I mean, with that list, you've got Romeo and Christian and Samari as your veteran guys. The oldest wide receiver in your top 6 right now is 25 years old. Yeah, 25 years old, and that's Samari Torrey. Christian Watson's 24. Romeo's 23. Packers have talked about bringing in a veteran wide receiver. They very well still could at this point. Probably not going to be, a big-time number 1 wide receiver. But again, maybe like what a Clifford could do for a Love, and I know Clifford's a rookie and all that, but bringing in a guy that, just kind of is a mentor to some of these younger wide receivers. Not going to probably do a whole lot on the field for you. But again, it's in the meetings, it's in practice, that sort of stuff. A little bit more of a reliable type of target, too, for Jordan Love. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs with this offense. There's going to be a lot of inconsistency. It's going to be a lot of, feeling it out, finding the perfect roles for these players. You got the tight ends of Luke and Tucker Kraft. I mean, I'm looking at this thing, and we're looking if I'm including the offensive line on this, there is one player who's over the age of 30, and that's Bakhtiari at 32. One player. The next oldest one is Aaron Jones at 29, and then it might be Love and Dylan. Or no, Jake Hanson's 25, 26, and then you got a few 26-year-olds on here too. So Anyash is 27. But one guy over the age of 30. That's it. And that's David Bakhtiari, and this is probably his final year. Heck, even on the defensive side here too, you've got only 2 guys over the age of 30. I'm looking at this now. It's Preston's at 31, and Devondre Campbell's at 30. Remember Kenny Clark when he was drafted? He was drafted so young. He's only 28 right now, and he's been in the league for how many dang years at this point. But, for all the talk we've been saying about the, defense and the pressures on them and the spotlights on them and Joe Barry, no more excuses with this defense. They've got to lead the charge. This is also a big-time moment for Matt LaFleur in showcasing what type of offensive play caller he is. It's one thing to be the play caller with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. You're mixing and matching. You're doing some things that he wants to do, some things that he likes to do. You're mixing in some things that you want to do or that you like to do. You're trying to find that middle ground, that common ground. This, I would say now, is Matt LaFleur's offense. Let's see what you can do. For all the talk about being a branch off the Shanahan and the McVay tree, we are now going to see, maybe not fully on this year. Like I said, there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some ups and downs. But this is now, the window is open now, or I should, the clock is now on to see what type of offense Matt LaFleur can put together with this team. Or what kind of style we're going to see, or what are we going to see that's going to be going on here. I have to imagine maybe heavy early in the running game. Maybe a little bit more of the jet sweeps. Maybe more of a simpler passing game. Hitting it over the middle of the field with those 2 tight ends now with Luke and Tucker. The occasional big, deep play with Watson screeching down the sidelines. But I got to imagine initially, maybe at least initially, you're going to still try to get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the ball as many times possible to take some of that pressure off Jordan Love until he kind of, maybe displays that what he's got or gets in a comfort zone here a little bit. But both these coordinators, I should say play callers, Joe Barry and Matt LaFleur, the spotlights are going to be on them this year. And maybe for a little different roles. Barry, just because you've got no more excuses. This has to be a top 5, top 10 defense. I think the expectations are going to be through the roof for that defense, and rightfully so. But on the offensive side of things is like, okay, now I think everybody's just assuming and believing we are finally going to see maybe an offense that Matt LaFleur has 100% say in. 100% this is Matt LaFleur's playbook now. It's not 50-50 with him and Rodgers or 60-40, whatever it was. It's 100% Matt LaFleur and what he wants to do. And that's what has me intrigued with this thing. And that's what has me excited to see the growth with these young players, with Jordan Love, with these young skill players, with Jordan Love. You know, I don't know what the future is going to be like with Aaron Jones after this year with the Packers. I think everybody would absolutely love and hope that he does stick around for a couple more years. But obviously with that cap hit that he has next year, and then A.J. Dillon's also scheduled to be a free agent. There's going to be some unknowns there surrounding the running back depth. But when you look at the wide receivers and the tight ends, I'm excited to see them grow with Jordan Love at quarterback. And I'm excited to see how LaFleur is going to incorporate the double tight ends mixed in with these wide receivers. I loved the back-to-back double dipping. I shouldn't say back-to-back, but double dipping in the tight ends. Luke in the second, Tucker in the third. You know, I'm sure some maybe older Packers fans are thinking about, you know, the days of Chimura and Keith Jackson. Or maybe some more recent football fans are thinking about, you know, the Patriots with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. You know, the double tight ends. And I think to add those two massive targets, you're talking 6'6", 6'5" guys who can run up the seam, who can get involved in the blocking game there too. You're talking about safety nets for Jordan Love. Big targets for Jordan Love. Now, the question is going to be, especially for a guy like Luke, is health. If health wasn't a factor for him, maybe he's in maybe a first-round pick. But wherever you look in terms of the reports and scouting reports from athletic traits, and Tucker, kind of the same thing. Maybe it's my fanism in me, and it could be, but I can't wait to see those two kind of grow together and potentially be some significant contributors at the tight end position for the first time in a while. Yeah, Robert Tonyan, remember a couple years ago, double-digit touchdown receptions. Then that ACL, I think, kind of, you know, set everything back. But, you know, 3 years from now, 3 years from now, if these players are hitting their strides, and I know we don't know how that's all going to work out, but let's think best case scenario here. You got Luke and Tucker doing their thing. You got Watson being the big play threat at wide receiver. Romeo being a consistent possession type of wide receiver. Great route runner. Reed is kind of your gadget slot type of receiver. There's things to be excited about. Young talent to be excited about. You just hope. You just really hope that they hit all of their marks. But this is definitely going to be our first glimpse in the type of offense I believe that Matt LaFleur wants to run with this team. Whether it's very similar to the 49ers or McVay with the Rams, we'll see. Maybe LaFleur putting his own little spin on it. But I think we're going to see something different. Again, it's going to be up and down. It's going to be inconsistent. Don't make too many judgments based off of the first year. But in the next couple of years, I'm excited to see what we got. All right, let's take a quick break. Brewers fans, who is the player of the month for April in your opinion? Month of April in the books. May 1st, Brewers 18-10, third best record in the National League. They are second in their own division, behind the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have one of the best records in the National League. Pirates and the Braves above the Brewers right now. But if you had to pick a player of the month for the Brewers for the month of April, who would that be? And what's maybe like surprised you the most in this month of April? Maybe disappointed you the most? Hit me up. Last call for some text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. 715-830-1912. We'll be back just a few minutes to wrap up this Monday show. Careers and Beers coming back. Round 6, May 4th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Brewing Project. Careers and Beers is a job fair and a happy hour brought to you by Midwest Family Eau Claire. Sick of the stuffy, uncomfortable job fairs? Careers and Beers is the answer, featuring local employers in a casual atmosphere. Free to attend, and you'll even get a free brew on the house. So that's coming up this, what is it? Where's my calendar? Thursday. Yeah, this Thursday. So you can head to aroundthe715.com for more details. Good nugget here from Peter King in his latest column, Football Morning in America. I should say interesting one here. As for Green Bay, this whole saga reinforces my admiration for the way they do business, as the franchise has for the last 30 years. GM Ron Wolf eternally and intelligently put the team first. Then Ted Thompson did, and now Brian Gutekunst has. They are general managers who have understood that pro football teams, at least pro football teams that are run well, are continuums, and life moves on, and you have to make some tough decisions. But if you do it with the team moving forward in mind, you will be fine. Drafting Jordan Love in 2020 was risky for Goody, but Rodgers responded with 2 MVP seasons and then a lesser year. The Packers figured it was time, entering Rodgers' age 40 season, to move on. And it is time. It's the right call to give Love the reins for a year or two, or maybe 12 to 15. But it's his time. So, some high praise from our good friend Peter King from Football Morning in America, NBC Sports, about the green and gold. Kind of, we have talked a lot about Joe Barry, I mean, Friday and today. So I think that, his job feature, we've talked about it at length. I think we all agree that he's under the spotlight pretty darn big, probably bigger this year than what it was pre-draft, but I would say it's gotten a little bit brighter. There's no more excuses. As we keep saying, we've said it Friday, we've said it all morning here. There is no excuses for this defense anymore. You've invested so much into that defense. They have got to be a top 5, top 10 unit. Okay, Brewers wise, off day today before they start off 6 games on the road, 3 against Colorado, 3 against the Giants. Colorado up first starting tomorrow night. Month of April in the books, 18-10. I asked you for kind of a player of the month for April here, and you could go a couple different routes. We've had a few Rowdy picks. We've had a few Willie Adames picks. We've had a couple of Brian Anderson picks. And there's no right or wrong answer in this thing. You can go with a couple of different ways. I think if I had to pick just one, and I'm making you just pick one because it's easier to say multiple players, I would go Wade Miley. When I factor in, Corbin Burns probably in the first month hasn't pitched, like the Corbin Burns that the preseason expectations were placed on him, that a lot of Brewers fans placed on him. Yeah, he's 3-1, but he's got a 4.01 ERA. His strikeout numbers probably aren't as high as we thought. Colin Ray has had 9 strikeouts yesterday, and that's the most in a single game so far for the Brewers. But you factor that Corbin Burns hasn't been at a Corbin Burns level. Brandon Woodruff has been hurt. Eric Lauer's been inconsistent. Freddie Peralta has been solid in his starts, but you throw in what Wade Miley has done this year, 3-1 with a 1.86 ERA, 29 innings pitched. Dude looks spectacular so far. Spectacular so far. And I might have to give him the credit, or not credit, but I'd probably have to pick him as my player of the month for the Brewers. When you factor in how the rest of the starting pitching staff, and I'm not saying they're bad, but, Corbin not being Corbin and Woody being hurt and all that sort of thing, and Colin Ray having to come in and, pitching and filling in that spot, I think I'm going to have to give it to Wade Miley for me. But you can make the case for Rowdy. You can make the case for Brian. I'd throw in Contreras. I think he needs to be talked a little bit more about what he has done. He's not going to be a power bat for you. But when you look at the season that William Contreras has done so far for the Brewers, I mean, so far this year hitting 295, OPS of a 779, on-base percentage of a 382. Got to give him a tip of the cap there, too. I'd throw him in that conversation. Not the flashiest player by any means, but has been pretty darn solid throughout the entire year. So, again, Brewers off day today, and then they've got an interesting month of May coming up here. When you look at the schedule, these 6 games against Colorado and then the Giants. Then they come home next week to face the Dodgers. Then you got 3 games against Kansas. Then you're going on a little bit, kind of mixed in there. But you got some AL matchups this month too, including Kansas City. But then St. Louis on the road. And then right after that, you've got Tampa Bay on the road. We'll see what Tampa Bay looks like here in a few weeks leading up to that matchup. And then right after that, you're at home against Houston. And I know Houston's off to a little bit of a slower start this year, but they're still Houston. And then you finish up the month of May right after Houston, San Francisco, but then Toronto. So, at least on the surface, potentially kind of a tougher schedule for the Brewer Crew. How can they handle that? A lot to be excited about. Sounds like Adrian Hauser, though, is going to be back with the ball club. Tyrone Taylor is going to be back with the ball club at some point during this road trip, according to Craig Counsell. So a little bit more reinforcements, obviously with the pitching staff, with Hauser, and then Tyrone Taylor, maybe a little bit fresher body in the outfield there. So, and then, for that successful month of April, I mean, how much credit do you give Craig Counsell for the month of April? I think you got to give him some credit. Juggling a little bit with these injuries, having to play a lot of the youngsters. You've got some new guys coming in here too. Brian Anderson, Contreras, Winker, Voit. So to be able to mesh all that together and to put out an 18-10 ball club in the first month of the season with those injuries, with those new guys and young guys getting their first action, I think you have to give Craig Counsell some of the credit, a lot of the credit for the start for the Brewers so far this year. They have to. He has done a fantastic job so far. And then, the bullpen there too. I think you got to give a lot of the coaching staff here some credit. And, if we asked who's probably been the most disappointing player for you so far this year, let's face it, Christian Yelich is probably going to be on that list for everybody, or for the majority, if not everybody. Yep, he's, 22 runs scored. He's got, 3 home runs. But still just hitting 223 with an on base of 316. He's getting paid to be a superstar, and right now he's not performing at a superstar level. So I think if we were to ask who's been the most disappointing, it's probably going to be Christian Yelich for the majority, if not everybody. Now, maybe some have just kind of said, you know what? That's him now. He is who he is, and you've moved on to that fact. But we'll see how the rest of the season kind of plays out here for the Brewers. Playoff hoops tonight. We got, Golden State getting that victory in Game 7 yesterday, setting up for what the NBA is probably just like so geeked up for, a Golden State and Lakers series coming up here. But in terms of the rest of the schedule now, we've got Boston and Philly, Game 1 tonight. Game 2 between Phoenix and Denver. Denver holding on to that 1-0 lead in their series. Miami picked up a win yesterday against the Knicks to take a 1-0 lead. So you got those games coming up in action. We'll see Miami and New York again tomorrow with Golden State and the Lakers getting ready for Game 1. NHL, as we mentioned, Boston knocked out in Game 7. Kraken moving on. They ousted the Avs. There you go. There you go. Rest of the schedule for some playoff hockey tonight. You've got the Rangers taking on the Devils in a Game 7 tonight. Game 7 tonight. So we got that. And then tomorrow we'll get a couple of game ones, Florida at Toronto, and then Seattle at Dallas. Speaking of tomorrow, we'll wrap up our series with the Steel falling in the postseason and Friday night. So we'll wrap up our conversations with them. We'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal as well. We'll start to preview this 3-game series against the Rockies for the Milwaukee Brewers. So we'll take a look at that. Tomorrow is the deadline for the option, for the 5th-year option. Will the Packers pick up that option for Jordan Love? We went through the quotes from Goody, what he said on Saturday. Maybe a little bit of conversation, more conversation than what we originally thought was going to happen. I still think they will, but we'll see. We'll see by tomorrow for sure. So also coming up tomorrow, what's grinding your gears? It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday, so you can start to think about that and let us know via the text or on the video or on Twitter and Facebook. Have a good rest of your Monday. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6. We will talk to you then.